Okay, so consumer behavior and the communication agenda. So, consumer behavior is really the set of actions that make up an individual's consideration, purchase, and use of products and services. So it includes the purchase as well as consumption of the products and services. So what is motivating the customer to buy? This enables you to convert features into benefits for that particular individual. And in which step of the purchase decision process is the buyer? So, so the first thing that happens when a consumer decides to buy something is that they recognize a problem. And it may be that, you know, you may see the commercials on TV. Oh, are your floors not looking completely white? Do you need to really scrub them to look cleaner? Well, if you have this problem, buy this cleaning solution. So usually the advertisement will say, well, you have a problem and this addresses it. Now, when we go to a nursing home, we may not, their problem may be very different than another nursing home. And it may be a nursing home that we're already in. So the real job in consultation selling is identifying a need, uncovering a need that we can fulfill. So sometimes we're like a chameleon, changing our colors in terms of what the needs are. So sometimes you may do it by asking questions, developing relationships, and that's when the needs start to come out. So it may occur when the consumer reevaluates the current situation and perceives an area of void or dissatisfaction. No matter what kind of need exists, some prospects do not consciously recognize it until the seller brings it out into the open. So sometimes you could be with somebody and they could be all upset about something that you might be able to help them on, or you may be unable to help them on. But when you bring up the topic of wounds and they get upset, or if it's an area of trouble for them, that's an area where we could help them. Or if you bring up the topic of G-tubes, or if you bring up the topic of derm. Search for alternatives, and this is actually key for us, because a lot of times people, when they're evaluating something, they may go and they may get 2 or 3. Like if you want to remodel your house, you may go get 2 or 3 people to come and tell you, well, what is this going to cost me, because you don't want to get ripped off. But in some situations, people just don't have the time or the urgency to go and get a bunch of different quotes or see a bunch of different programs. What they do is they just go ahead and go and choose a certain company. And if in the nursing home world, when it comes to what we do in our space, if they don't like what we have to offer, they just call us the next day and say, hey, you don't need to round at our building anymore. So there isn't really this need for them to find alternatives, because alternatives are coming to them all the time. And there's no risks involved in the purchase for them on some level, because they could cancel us at any time. Some of them may not see it that way, and that's where we see some blocking involved. So evaluation of alternatives, we go over that, and then the purchase decision. So several alternatives may seem equally acceptable, like skilled wound care or ABC wound care, maybe just as good. They don't really see a difference. And really, as a professional seller, your job is to really outline what the difference is between skilled wound care and ABC seller. And then the decision criteria, tangible features of the product, financial considerations, which our program does not have a cost to it, intangible factors such as reputation, past performance, possible delivery dates, etc. And I would put in intangible factors, brand recognition, the fact that we provide a lot of education, all of these things. So another thing which occurs is cognitive dissonance, which a lot of people, once they've purchased something, they may have post-purchase buyer's remorse or anxiety, and they're not really happy with their purchase. And it depends upon the importance of the decision and the attractiveness of rejected alternatives. But by selling products that meet needs, by reinforcing the buyer, by following up with them, by demonstrating the qualities, usually you could take that away. So it's really important that if we get a new building, wherever it is, that we're following up with them so that they're not getting this cognitive dissonance that we just sold them something and now we're out. And a lot of times that happens especially in the field we do, where you sell them, you got the account, now you're out, and now it's like, well, you know, it's ours to lose, and we could lose it very easily. So the decision maker is usually made on different levels, and the buying criteria may be complex. Certain nursing homes will not buy from us because it may be a corporate decision. The DON can't make the decision. Certain nursing homes, the DON may make the decision. Certain nursing homes, it's the administrator, or any one of these different things. And then the buying motivation, is it rational, economic, or is it emotional? The best sell is obviously an emotional sell, a relationship sell, versus somebody who's just evaluating on a rational level. So categories of organizational buyers. So in our realm, it's really either a corporate or a mom and pop nursing home chain where one owner owns 2 or 3. And I think Caesar has gone over this ad nauseum, but the multiple buying influence, really, where it's not just one person making decision, there is a group of people making a decision. There's treatment nurses, ADONs, all these corporate people, all these people that are gathered together to help make the decision.
That's why it's important to get those people at the lower, like the treatment nurses, the charge nurses, to have them become fans of what we do, because there's so many, there's a greater number of them that can influence
yes.
the corporate DON, the administrator's decision.
Right, and that's exactly right. That means you've been listening to what we've been saying for the last 5 months. We have the users, we have the buyers, the influencers, the gatekeepers, and the decision makers. And as you can know, the 3 most important pieces are the influencers, the gatekeepers, because if somebody wants to block us, they can block us, and the decision maker. If somebody decides not to take our program, you can have the whole facility be your fan. So you've got to get to the decision maker as well. And sometimes you may get a facility, or you may be able to, get them to buy on board with a G-Tube program, but it hasn't been run through the key decision maker, which may be ownership, maybe corporate, it may be the DON didn't know about it, and then you're in a big world of trouble because you didn't go and talk to the decision maker, and those individuals always feel like they need to be informed before anything happens in the facility, and sometimes it may just be an ego thing. More of the buying motives. So ultimate organizational buying motives. One is, of course, to increase wealth, which we don't really, that's not really the business we're in. Alleviate fear, yes. Secure social approval. Does anybody know what social approval is?
It's like your group, like the group of DONs at a regional meeting, like approve of skilled wound care services, or
right. It's like it's kind of like,
it's like an enzyme company meeting. There's
it's kind of like in high school when like the coolest kid in the high school gets that certain jacket or that certain phone, and then 3 months later everybody in the school has that jacket or that phone, right? So it's about social approval or proof, social proof, like, hey, I've made it, I have an iPhone, or hey, I've done this. It's almost like a status symbol, or having skilled wound care. Oh yeah, we use skilled wound care. And that's where we want to be at. We want to be one of those social approval kind of brands. Experience happiness or pleasure. That's definitely somewhere where we want to be. Gaining an advantage. Now, the thing about our program is that we go to almost any nursing facility. Sometimes a nursing facility will say, well, we want you to be exclusive so we can market it. So the thing you could say is, well, we don't do exclusivity, but we can help you market to your hospitals or whatever it is. Improving health. Obviously, we're improving the health of the patients. profit. So if you can show the facility that they're going to profit by not having to send the patients out of the facility to the hospital, if you could show them that they're not going to be losing financial dollars by the patients going home or whatever it is, then they're going to be happy about that. Flexibility, uniformity of output. Is our product the same across all levels? And we've worked really hard to make our product similar by the professionalism of our practitioners, the way we deliver the care, guarantees delivery and quality. And everybody likes to hear, well, oh, money back guarantee, our delivery system, it's going to get there and it's high quality. And that's what you have to reassure people, that, hey, if there is a problem, you can contact me. I guarantee that we will have your problem solved. There's always going to be problems. So psychological influences, the role of perceptions and illusions. I mean, check out this checkerboard here. Look at the white dots and the black dots. Well, are there any really black dots there? But if you stare there, you keep seeing black dots, right? So it's really an illusion. So the buyer is not always conscious. There's a lot of unconscious influences. Our mind doesn't work where we're interpreting things directly, and you have to get into buyer psychology. If you want to be successful in getting our patient numbers up, if you want to be successful in building your territory, if you want to be successful building relationships with all your buildings, you have to get into people's psychology. There's much more to it than just features and programs, which you need to know, because that's what's going to get you to show them the benefits and the feelings. But really, you have to get into their psychology. And the buyer is not always conscious. The buyer most of the time is so busy when you're in a nursing home that they're really working. They're just like, boom, let me get on to my next thing so I could get home to my whatever it is. So attitudes are habitual patterns of response to previous experiences. Preconceived attitudes do not always make the selling process difficult. And if you're dealing with somebody with a negative attitude, there's no way you're going to get that person to just purchase what you're talking about. Self-image impacts the problem recognition phase of consumer behavior. Many of our permanent beliefs about our self-image are developed in our childhood. And you have to think about this, you know, obviously when you're doing sales or when you're doing something to someone, you have to keep in mind their whole self-image and everything else, and you don't want to say things or do things that are incongruent to their self-image of who they are or what the building is about. And if you're talking about things that, you know, if you're going into a building, and even think about it in terms of the building's self-image, and you're going in there and you're talking about how we could do this and how we could do that, but this building is basically struggling to pass a survey, they're not going to really care about what you have to say. You know, they're not looking for all the bells and whistles. They may just be looking for a reliable provider who's coming in. Now, if you go to a building that's an A+ building that's doing things top notch, they may be like, I need a specific QA report. And they're looking for all our bells and whistles. But you don't want to promote the bells and whistles if all they want is a reliable provider. 9 times out of 10, if they have another provider in there, it's an unreliable provider, not showing up on time or whatever else it is. So culture. So one of the things that, you know, is an important point is, for instance, in the South, one thing I realized is that people may be more of less on a first name basis with each other and more on a last name basis. Or if you ever go to the South, people say sir and ma'am all the time to one another. If you come to California, nobody's saying sir and ma'am and how do you do. So you have to know, if you go to New York, it's a totally different culture. And you have to adapt your ways to the culture. You don't want to give them the California attitude when you're in New York. You want to make them feel like you're part of their culture, and also ethnic considerations, maybe if they're not originally from the United States. Also, obviously, social class makes a difference too. So communication is really important. So when we look at communication, we're talking about verbal versus nonverbal noise. So when you start to go in somewhere, like I'm doing right now, and give you guys a lecture, probably about you know, 80% of what I'm telling you is noise, but this is being recorded, and hopefully people are going to keep going and watching these over and over again until all of this becomes something that you're taking in. So you have the source, you have encoding, messages, decoding, receiver. So I may say something to you like this, you may receive it a completely different way. You may go into a building and say, hey, oh wow, you guys are doing remodeling and you've been going to that building for 5 years. Well, that's great. I think that's great for the building. And they may be like, well, what were you saying, that our building was crap before we started remodeling it? Yeah. You know, you may offend your customer. So you want to be careful about what you say to people. So words, distractions, interruptions, technical stuff, poor listening habits. And one of the worst things you could do is hear yourself talk for half an hour when you go to meet with somebody. Whether you're going to manage the relationship or whether you're going to develop a new account, and you're just hearing yourself talk to them, oh, we do this, and oh yeah, I just did this, and oh yeah, I just took a vacation, I went over here, and you know, blah blah blah. You don't want to listen to yourself talking the whole time. You want to listen to them talk to you, open up, and look at where the opportunities are to work with them. So you want to be clear, your volume, your uniqueness. Now, if I deepen my voice, you may feel a certain way. If I lighten my voice, you may feel a different way. If I talk to you like this, you may feel like, oh, my program is very, you know, nice, and we're going to be very gentle. If I talk to you like this, it means I have authority and I know what I'm talking about. So you want to be aware of how you're talking to people. You have a low tone or a high tone. And sometimes when you have a high tone, some people may mistake you as somebody who's frivolous. Somebody you have a too low of a tone, somebody may say, oh my God, this person is very intimidating. I may not want to work with them. Also the rhythm and rate of your speech. If I come and talk to you like this and I say, you know, we have a great quality assurance program and you should take it right now and you should come sign up with our course, are you going to take it?
No.
Right? Or if I come and I talk to you, hey, you know what? I have a great quality assurance program. Are you going to take it? No. So, but what if the person you're talking to talks like this? What if I go and meet with some guy who's talking like this to me all the time, and he's like this, and I start talking to him like this too, and then all of a sudden we strike it off and he says, hey, yeah, I'll take your program. Right? Huh?
Be chameleon, adapt to.
Yeah. So if you can do that, it's great. And you want to balance your body language, your rate of speech. All these things make a difference when you meet with people. This is all subconscious mind, unconscious mind stuff. Visual communication expresses majority of a person's feelings and emotions. So we all know crossing arms mean I'm on defense. Open arms means, hey, come talk to me. Open legs also means, hey, come talk to me. Crossed over legs, crossed arms means, you know, I'm on defensive. Now, what happens if you do that? Well, they're going to just look at you as, well, why is this person coming to sell me?
Right, if you're like sitting in a meeting like that. It's
right. So, but what if your prospect or the person you're speaking to is like that? Well, maybe I want to mirror their imagery. Maybe I will mirror my arms like this and talk to them like that, and then slowly open up my arms to like this area here, like this. And then they might feel more comfortable because I'm mirroring them. So those are ways you could do that. And you want to be calm and unhurried. And facial expressions convey a larger percent of the nonverbal message than body movement does. We've went over this many times, but warning signals that the prospect is not interested. Rubbing the nose, leaning back in the chair with hands behind the head, falling asleep, resting the head in the hands with elbows on the desk, finger under collar, or rubbing the back of the neck. So the nonverbal dictionary, analyzing the walk. So successful sellers. A successful seller will move closer to a client when closing a sale. It is best to carefully test for a prospect's comfort zone. Obviously, you know, sex, status, and age, you know, male to female, you don't want to like step into somebody's comfort zone. 4 to 12 feet from the client would be a good distance in which to begin a sales interview. In a selling situation, the intimate zone should be entered only by invitation or during a handshake. Americans use a firm, solid grip. Middle Easterners and Asians prefer a gentle grip. A firm grip to them suggests unnecessary aggressiveness. Okay? So if we're dealing with people, especially in California where we have a lot of Asian nursing home directors, we don't want to go in there and give them this tight grasp. They may be like, oh my God, this person is too much. Nobody likes the hard sell. Remember that. Nobody likes the hard sell. Especially in the Asian community, nobody likes the hard, go get 'em kind of sell. You want to be kick back when you're talking to people, but aggressive at the same time. Our Americans are taught to look directly at people. Japanese and Koreans are taught to avoid direct eye contact because it's considered a weakness and may indicate sexual overtones. For Americans, forming a circle with a thumb and forefinger to signal okay. If you do that in France, it means 0. It means money in Japan, and in Germany, it means a very bad name. So, so there's different things. An American gesture is found to be offensive to nearly every other country around the globe, which is funny. So you obviously don't want to go into somebody's meeting and put your feet on the table. So gender speak, obviously, a woman's smile may be interpreted as an attempt to substitute personal charm for competence. And then, you know, it's kind of the thing where women are almost always put in the position of you can never do it right. If you're not smiling, you're considered kind of bitchy. And if you do smile, you're considered, you know, too nice and you're not serious. So you want to kind of just be somewhere in between. But both men and women may unconsciously join in a game of talking business, but using body language that says, let's flirt. So when we talk to people of the other sex, okay, sometimes the unconscious mind kicks in right away if there's an attraction there. So if there is an attraction there, and we all know that beer companies, car companies, they always put a pretty woman or to sell the beer or to sell the car, vice versa, a good-looking man on the cover of some book or something that wants to be sold to women. All of these things are used because it taps into the unconscious mind, and it's something to be aware of. And so those are things that we want to be aware of as we go. Women tend to surrender more quickly, may feel vaguely uncomfortable about having done so, but in the sale cycle, if they are not getting what they want, they may give up a little bit too soon. Interrupt men less often than they do other women. So tend to use more, I don't know what it's saying there, and tend to be better. However, men tend to surrender less quickly. They interrupt both sexes, tend to use less of their, you know, all the tools they have, and they tend to be worse. So if you're a man and you're doing sales, it actually says here that you're actually going to be worse than a woman. So, you have to soften up, and you have to learn when to surrender. Now, for sales, for a woman, that may be good or bad, and for a man, it may be good or bad. You obviously don't want to surrender too quickly, but you also don't want to like choke the person on the first time you meet them. Some people, you're not going to close them right away when you meet them. Some people, I've gone into buildings and they've said, well, you know, when we're in there, and Henry is a witness, probably when we started doing this, 5 times out of 10, they would tell us, oh, we have a patient next door. Can you come see the patient? And they were asking us to see patients right away, right there on the spot. And you say, oh, well, you know, X, Y, and Z. But that's an uncommon thing. But that is an awesome sell. When they say something like that, if they say something, you're in the building, and they tell you, well, can you get somebody over here right now to see this patient I have? That's pretty much, you can't get a bigger close than that. Yeah. They're saying, hey, I trust you, come on in. They haven't seen your credentials, they haven't seen your website, they haven't seen anything. So, this concludes our presentation for today. Let me go ahead and turn it over to questions, comments. Zach seems to have a lot to say in this area.
No, I just think that these are, it's breaking down the whole difference between the unconscious and conscious thought process is something that's very important. I think, talking about body characteristics, the difference, knowing how women react is different to how men react, as well as cultures. People vary from cultures. And really relating this to our program and talking about branding, skilled wound care, the social, approval type brand, I think is something that, you provide good perspective on.
Henry, you have any comments?
I think the best way to tap into people's unconscious mind is really to build a friendship. When you first come in, you smile. When you go to shake their hand, the way you do it, and you automatically start listening, and you feed off of what they say. They give you information, you reciprocate, and as you do that, you automatically get into their happy zone, and then from there you're able to build a good relationship, and then hopefully get what you want.
Ivan?
Yeah, definitely with the relationships, which is where I focused more of my attention when I first started here. People tend, like I said earlier, people tend to open up to you more. Just this morning, I went to a donut shop, and just was friendly to the guy like I normally am, and he ends up telling me of the problems he's having with his wife. I think he just wanted to vent, but the fact that I sat there and made a conversation with him and actually pretended to listen, helped him vent a little bit, and he got some stuff off his chest. And I was a complete stranger that now I know the guy at the donut shop has issues with his wife now.
Okay. Christina, you have any comments?
I definitely agree that body language and tapping into the unconscious mind is really important. Creating that imagery with, how you speak to people definitely puts them in a happy zone. I mean, it's been done to me plenty of times as a buyer. And
can you give an example?
Yeah, when I bought my car, they did that same thing with the BMW. You're going to drive to the beach with the top down. And what did I do? I bought it.
Oh, yeah? So it worked.
Yeah. So I definitely agree.
Got me.
Yeah, I was like, when he said that,
line.
I said, whoa, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's actually very, very common in selling cars and everything. You're not going to talk to, you may talk to like a guy who may be a mechanic or something. You're going to talk to him about horsepower, but probably 90% of the buyers, you're going to talk to them about, hey, just imagine you're not going to have to go to the gas pump and pump your gas. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be out enjoying it with your family. If I'm selling you a hybrid car, I'm not going to talk to you about driving down PCH. But if I'm selling you a BMW, I'm going to say, hey, just imagine this weekend when you're on PCH and you're driving it down. And I bet you took your car on PCH and drove down.
I definitely did. I went to the beach the next day.
You went to the beach the next day. There you go. Mike, you have any comments?
I think the culture and the different types of culture, that's obviously very important. Even with, respect to, us being in Houston, I think, for instance, they're a totally different type of person. Maybe they're a little bit more conservative, maybe a little bit more slow pace than Los Angeles, and you want to kind of be conscious of that, and when you're presenting to them, you would do it differently than somebody from Los Angeles, and that could probably be very, say the same for different parts of California. People who are maybe from LA could be a little bit different from people in San Diego to people who are maybe in the middle of the state. So kind of keeping that in mind, different people you speak to and different cultures, I think that's definitely important. So
very good. Caesar?
I think it's really important that you guys take this information and go over the videos over and over again. Very often when we sit with people, the first thing that we ask them is like, why do you think you're good at selling? And the number one thing that always comes out of people's mind is like, because I'm great. They always say it in different ways. And the reality is that most of the time why somebody buys is not because you're great. It's because you connect with them. You know, Henry said relationship, and it really is because you connect with them. And so all this information is so that you guys can develop that skill. If you think you're selling because you're great, you probably are not able to repeat this. And this is about skills, and it's about, you know, practicing and practicing and practicing, and, you know, see yourself envisioning when you're going to meet with people, and have a plan of how you're going to practice, you know, at least one of these areas, so that when we ask you, you know, how did it go in X region, and you tell, and you're being asked, what did you do different? Your answer is, well, I don't really know, or I don't know, or, you know, I just smiled more. It should be something in the realm of what we're discussing, because that's the whole purpose of the training.
Yeah, the whole purpose of these recordings and these sessions are that you guys are going to be reviewing these over and over again, because we don't want to have a conversation with anyone that we have to repeat these things. You guys should know these things. Let me get to Danielle. Let me unmute you. Danielle, can you hear me? Danielle?
I can hear you.
Any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was kind of agreeing with Mike when he said that the different regions. I greatly notice a difference between Northern and Southern California, so I think that playing on that as well, you know, we're a lot calmer, I guess, a little bit more relaxed up here. So I think that's important to take into consideration when we're discussing different techniques.
Yes. Absolutely. Go ahead, add something. Mike wants to add another.
Yeah, I think I would just say there's also just one thing I realized, easy ways to kind of build these relationships by asking just really simple questions. And I think taking the time, whether you ask them, for instance, I just realized speaking to DONs, if you ask them, for instance, how long have you been here for? And then it just sets up into they're going to say, well, they've been here for a year, maybe a few months, maybe 5 years. Then you ask them, oh, where were you before? The next thing you know, you ask them, oh, are you from here? And then next thing you know, they're telling you where they're from, and then they might tell you, oh, I moved from here, and then they get into their family. Or you can tell them, hey, you know, compliment them on how hardworking they are, and then you say, you know, have you taken a vacation recently? And then that gets into the whole vacation, warms them up with talking about, you know, maybe they went on a vacation, they want to go on a vacation, where they went. So I think there's real simple ways of kind of tapping into those, you know, things that might make them feel more warm and open to talking more and more with you. Just by asking some really basic questions, it just opens up more and more.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody.